They say the human mind forgets faces, but some faces don't let you forget them. Rohan had met thousands of passengers during his night duty as an auto driver, but the woman he picked up tonight was different. Pale, silent, her long hair floating even without wind, and a strange perfume that felt too cold for a human. Even after he dropped her at her building, her face stayed with him. Her eyes felt like they were still watching him, even as she walked into the dark apartment block and the door closed behind her. Rohan tried driving away, but his hands were trembling on the handle. Every blink brought back her image, her drifting hair, her stiff movements, and the faint smile she had given him when she stepped out. He tried calling his friend Samir, hoping to talk to someone and shake off the uneasiness. Samir didn't pick up. The streets were empty, and the silence around him grew heavier, as if the night itself was watching him. He couldn't stay alone outside, so he turned back to her building, thinking it was better to wait somewhere with light. But the closer he got, the more wrong everything felt. The entire street was silent, not just quiet, unnaturally silent. Even the stray dogs weren't making a sound. The building stood like a tall shadow, windows dark, as if abandoned. A strange chill ran through him, settling in his spine. Still, he stepped out, grabbed the small knife he kept hidden under the auto seat, and messaged Samir, "I'm going inside. I'll leave the door open for you. Come fast." His heart pounded as he pushed the gate open and entered the lobby. The corridor lights flickered weakly, buzzing like dying insects. He rang the woman's doorbell once, no answer. He rang again, then again. Each ring echoed unnaturally loud in the silent hallway, as if the walls were pushing the sound back at him. He pressed the bell a fourth time, his throat drying as he listened. Nothing. Rohan stepped back. She had walked in just minutes ago, so why wasn't she answering? Where could she have gone? The air around him felt heavier, colder, as if someone invisible was breathing beside him. He took a deep breath, gulped down his fear, and slowly turned the doorknob. It wasn't locked. The door creaked open, releasing a wave of the same perfume the woman had been wearing. Strong, fresh, unmistakable. He whispered, "Madam?" His voice sounded too small for the thick darkness inside. He stepped into the apartment. The living room was drowned in shadows, except for a thin beam of moonlight slipping through the curtains. The air felt old and heavy. Dust floated in his flashlight beam. The furniture was covered with old white sheets, untouched for months. A broken wall clock ticked despite having no batteries. Nothing about the room suggested that someone had just walked in, but the perfume was everywhere, as if she were still standing right there. Rohan's heartbeat thudded through his ears. He tightened his grip on the knife and moved deeper inside. His shoes made soft crunching sounds over the dust-covered floor. "Hello?" he called again, but even his whisper seemed to frighten him. A sudden sound made him freeze. Tap, tap, tap. Footsteps. Light, slow, coming from the bedroom at the end of the hallway. He held his breath. The footsteps were soft but unmistakable. They weren't echoes. Someone, or something, was inside. He forced himself to move toward the bedroom, each step heavier than the last. His hand shook as he pushed the bedroom door open. The room inside was darker than the rest of the house. His flashlight illuminated thick dust on the furniture, an old dressing table, a cracked mirror covered in cobwebs. The curtains were motionless. Nothing here looked recently touched, except for one thing. On the bed, the blanket was pressed down in one spot, a fresh dent. Someone had been sitting there just moments ago. Rohan's breath caught in his throat. His voice cracked. "Is someone here?" The footsteps stopped. Silence returned, but a different kind of silence, a silence that felt alive. Then, out of nowhere, a long strand of hair drifted across his face. But the air was completely still. He spun around, his breath quick and sharp, but the room behind him was empty. His flashlight flickered. He could feel something there, not see it, feel it. Cold breath touched the back of his neck. Slow, icy, terrifyingly close. Rohan didn't want to turn around. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but fear has its own cruelty. It forces you to look at the things you dread the most. He turned. She was standing just inches away from him. The same woman. Her face pale and expressionless, her eyes wide and empty,
her hair floating around her head as if weightless. But the worst part? Her feet were not touching the ground. Rohan stumbled backward, almost slipping. His flashlight shook wildly as he held it up. The woman's lips barely moved, but a whisper filled the room, even though her mouth barely opened. "You shouldn't have come back." He backed away, trembling uncontrollably. She drifted a little closer, her perfume becoming stronger, almost suffocating him. His phone slipped from his hand and cracked on the floor, the light flickering weakly. Her voice echoed again, not in the room, but inside his head. "Leave." Rohan forced himself to move. He crawled toward the door, scrambled to his feet, and ran. He sprinted through the hallway, down the stairs, almost falling multiple times. He burst through the building gate and collapsed beside his auto, gasping, trembling, unable to think clearly. His phone vibrated with a notification. It was Samir. The message read, "I'm at her building, but bro, which woman? This apartment has been empty for 12 years." Rohan stared at the message, his hands shaking violently. He slowly turned his head toward the building. The silence now felt even heavier, the air colder. And behind him, the same perfume lingered, as if she hadn't stayed inside, as if she had followed him out.